Hi guys, it's Tali and welcome back to my corner of the internet. Today I thought I'd take you through my 2020 reading wrap up and what I recommend and what I wouldn't. In total this year I read 15 books across many different genres including romance, manga, and fantasy. I will start with manga as this is the first year I've really gotten into it. The first one this was the last one I read this year, is Nameless Asterium by Kina Kobayashi. This follows the story of these three girls as they explore love, queer relationships, and friendship in junior high school, so middle school here. It follows Shiratori, Washio, and Kutaka. These are our three main girls here. And Shiratori has a secret crush on Washio. She later finds out, like right at the beginning, that her crush has a crush on the other girl, Kutaka. And so she is probably the main character throughout the trio. And we follow her as she supports Washio in trying to form a relationship with Kutaka while secretly dealing with these feelings. I gave this book a 3 out of 5. I found it really cute and quite girly. Something that's like really lighthearted, and I finished it in about 30 minutes. I think it's a really good starting point if you're into queer fiction, light romance, like high school drama, that kind of thing. That I think this one would be a really good option. The second one I read this year was Yona of the Dawn by Mizuho Kusanagi. It follows this main character, Yona, as the only princess of a kingdom in Japan, and she's lived a super sheltered life. At this stage in the book, she's 16 and has helplessly fallen in love with her cousin slash older friend, and we follow her journey as things go wrong all of a sudden, and we witness her ideal life get completely destroyed before her eyes. Yona of the Dawn I gave a 4 out of 5. I found that the story was quite good. It was really easy to get along, understand the characters. Yona, however, could be a little bit childish, and I found that's like obviously her privilege and everything growing up, but I'm really excited to see how her story goes and to see her grow up and learn to trust someone that isn't necessarily from her sheltered background. This next manga is Act Age Volume 1 by Tatsuya Matsuki and Shura Yuzaki. Now this one follows the story of Kei Unagi as she is a young actor still in school, struggling to feed her family, but she must fight her psychological demons when playing a role. Kay actually struggles quite a lot to show emotion and has to method act in a desperate attempt to feed them. And so she is spotted by Sumiji Koriyama, a famous director, who's looking for more raw talent to mold and bring him back into the industry's grace. Now the story follows her beginning her first couple jobs and learning about method acting and trying to show better emotion. I'm pretty sure I gave this one a 3 out of 5. I honestly don't remember much about it. It wasn't really compelling for me, and personally I wouldn't recommend it. I just didn't enjoy the story. My second favorite manga of the year is this one, The Promised Neverland Volume 1 by Kaigi Shirai and Pozuka Demizu. It follows the story of a few orphans, including Emma, Norman, and Ray, as they throughout their life at Gracefield House Orphanage. This one is honestly sounds really cute from the beginning, but then you find out a really fucking dark truth. They refer to the woman who takes care of them as mum. They are raised in a super clean environment. They are the brightest kids there, and basically throughout the story, Emma and Norman learn the deep dark secret about where they've grown up. I personally really enjoyed this story, so I gave this one a 3 out of 5. I enjoyed the story but the twist that happens kind of shocked me in a different way, and I haven't been able to pick up the new volumes yet. I think it's really interesting, but I would give some trigger warnings for a little bit of dark violence. If you like fantasy, if you like, I guess, investigations, like detective style things, I would highly recommend this. The next book I'll recommend is Children of the Whales by Abi Umeda. It follows the life of a small village town that live on the mud whale. Now the art style in this is absolutely beautiful. Like different things like that. The cover and the back were amazing to read. For this one, we follow Chakuro, who is the archivist slash historian for the mud whale, which is the creature that they live on, and they sort of float through the island city in the sky. And so we learn how this small community survives and what happens when something goes wrong. The story itself was really cute. It was a little confusing to begin with just to get settled into the world, but I really love the characters and I am excited to read more. I forgot to say I gave Children of the Whales a 4 out of 5 star, and this was easily my favorite manga of the year. The only poetry book I read this year was Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur. This is a super famous collection of poetry. I believe this one was the first one she released. For me, I just didn't connect with it. She does bravely talk about some SA history or sexual assault history, and so there's a trigger warning for that, but also going through abusive relationships, dealing with alcoholism and that sort of thing throughout the story. The illustrations I really enjoyed. There's quite a lot that I believe she actually did. I gave this one a 3 out of 5. It just wasn't the kind of poetry I connect with, but I could definitely see quite a few contemporary readers enjoying it. This book is the first romance book I read this year, Beach Read by Emily Henry. This one was super popular on TikTok. I believe I heard of it through Mary Stevens. It follows the story of January and Gus, who are both suffering with crippling writer's block, and venture to a small town beach house, but the twist is they are enemies. January is a hopeless romantic who's just had her heart broken. Her career's kind of it was rising, and then her long-term boyfriend broke up with her. So we follow her as she's dealing with secrets that she found out about her family, and her father's recent death. So there's a lot of trauma that she's dealing with. And then we've got Gus, who's like the serious literary type, who's there for research, but also battling a lot with writer's block. These two are enemies from college, who Gus often critiqued her work in college and ended up being literary rivals on the New York Times and that sort of thing in this world. However, they both need to finish their books before summer ends, and so you kind of see their relationship develop from friends to lovers, or enemies to lovers, sorry. For me, I gave this one a 3 out of 5. It honestly put me in a little bit of a reading slump, so I wasn't able to read for about 4 to 6 weeks after it. I just couldn't really pick up anything and enjoy it nearly as much. No fault of its own. I just think that the writing and the story, again, it was cute, but it just really didn't connect with what I wanted at the time. This book, however, I can rave about for days and days and days. I'm sure you guys have heard of it, but Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This story follows the elusive Daisy Jones and the Six, the band that blew up in the 70s and then all of a sudden one day broke up. Now this takes place through the eyes of an interviewer and is written in all interview transcripts from the interviewer themselves. So we see them in the 2000s, 2010s, talking and reflecting upon the past and what happened and why the band really split. I love Daisy and I love every single one of these characters. I found the story really engaging, really upbeat. Loved seeing the 70s music scene and kind of their rise to fame and why they really split. I recommend this highly, and I know there's a Amazon TV show coming out soon, so I'm really excited for that. I feel like everyone should pick it up. Like, I can't stop raving about it. I gave this one a 5 out of 5, obviously. This year, I also read the first 3 books in the Selection series. This one is number 2, Elite. I own the other 2 digitally, so it's just easier for me to show this one. The premise follows, I think it's 35 girls who are in a post-war America and fight for the prince's love. It's a kind of bachelor situation where they all go to the palace, live there, live this lavish life with him, and slowly but surely he picks different ones and kicks them out, and slowly you kind of eliminate more and more people. We follow our main character, America Singer, who in this world is a lower class or caste 5. The caste system goes from 1 to 8, 8 being homeless, 1 being royalty. And so we kind of see her eyes as like one of the poorest classes, struggling to eat, and also already being in love with someone else, but then thrown into this competition by the whims of her family and suddenly wrapping up in the palace. We kind of follow her journey throughout the 3 books. I won't spoil the ending, but I really love the relationship she has because she is so different from everyone else. You see the privilege of some of the other girls in the upper classes and how they really just want the money, whereas she's genuinely kind of confused, like she's trying to do this for her family, whilst getting over former love. And so we kind of see this really cool friendship develop between the prince Maxon and her, and whatever happens later I will not say. But yeah, I gave the first one a 3, the second one a 4, and the third book a 5. I'm currently on book number 4, which follows The Next Generation. This was the first book I finished this year, and it's Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nagan. This one was a reread for me. I absolutely loved this in 2018 and then repicked it up this year because I felt like rereading and continuing the series. This one was a complete 5 out of 5. It's absolutely amazing. It's set in kind of a fusion of different Asian cultures in the kingdom of Ikhara, and follows 3 different castes and uses magic. And so in this story, we follow Lei, a paper caste girl, so fully human, no magic. The steel caste is next, which are partial human, partial demon. For the demons in this story, there is animal features, magic, all sorts of things. And then right at the top is the demon king, who is moon caste and is fully animal. This caste is super strong, super prejudiced, and very, very wealthy. So Lei and 7 other girls are chosen and taken to the kingdom, taken to the palace to become concubines for the king that year. And so Lei is sort of thrown into this crazy world of riches, palace staff, etiquette, all that sort of stuff that she's never really known. And so we kind of follow her as she goes along this journey, serving the king, and kind of I will mention that there is a trigger warning for sexual assault in this one, because obviously she is unwilling, and whilst there isn't much, it can be quite intense for a first-time reader. I would say you definitely need to be 16 or above, if not 18, just because of the content of this story. Whilst I really enjoy it, I think, yeah, it can be quite a lot. I did enjoy the incorporation of different Asian cultures and kind of the respect the author, so partial own voices. The author is Malaysian, and so we see a lot of her influences, but we also see Southern Indian cultures, we see Chinese culture, all sorts of parts of Asia and East Asia, and kind of learning about them. I really enjoyed this. It was a 5 out of 5, and I highly recommend it. The next book is The Grey Bastards. I currently have loaned out my copy to a friend. So this is the sequel, The True Bastards, and it follows the story of Jackal, Fetching, and Oates in their hoof of Grey Bastards. So The Grey Bastards are half orc, half human defenders of the human kingdom of Hispartha, and they are defeating and constantly protecting them against the full-blooded orcs who 20 years before this story takes place caused an incursion, killing thousands and thousands of humans. And often the bastards themselves, as they're called, the Grey Bastards, are a group of, there's about 7 different hoofs, as they call them, that they go out and defeat these guys in order to, one, keep their land for themselves and avoid the humans, but also to stop the humans from trying to, I guess, take them and put them back into slavery, even though that's been abolished, but that is still very common. Jack himself is a very charismatic character. We've got Fetching, who's the first woman in any hoof, and then Oates, who's a thrice blood, so he's born of a half blood and a full-blooded orc, and kind of their friendship dynamic. And we mostly follow Jack as he faces betrayal and then the consequences of that. This one was a 5 out of 5. It's got a lot of high fantasy, it's got a lot of battles, a lot of mysticism, so I highly recommend this for anyone who really enjoys a good fantasy read as something a little bit different. The final 2 books I will talk about today are A Game of Thrones and A Clash of Kings, both in the Game of Thrones A Song of Ice and Fire series by George R.R. Martin. Most people will know this series from the TV show A Game of Thrones. Personally, I watched that before I read these. This series spans a massive country of Westeros in the different kingdoms as a succession crisis unfolds. We follow the Stark family, the Targaryens, and many other lords and ladies as palace life, rough kingdom life, but also the eastern continent of Essos. So we get a lot of magic, a lot of politics, and a lot of intrigue. I really recommend this one as an audiobook. That's how I've been reading it alongside the physical book. It's really fantastic. It's hard to kind of describe because so much happens, but also to avoid spoilers. My favorite family so far are the Starks, and I'm currently on the 3rd book, A Storm of Swords. Both of these books were a 5 out of 5 star read. Thank you so much for watching my video today. Feel free to comment kind of the books you read this year, any opinions you might have on the ones I've read. Please be nice. I know booktube can be a little bit divisive sometimes on our opinions. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you would want, and feel free to follow my Instagram, TikTok, and Goodreads that I will link in the description. I will see you next video.